The Rebbe is, even though we paskin like the Tanakama that it is one of the 7 names Shem Chokin, it's still not daime to the rest of the names. That's the Chiddush. So what we learned yesterday is that when it comes to names, there are a few different categories of names. We're on page Chav Beis. There are a few different categories of names. You have a Shema Etzem, which is a description of the very essence of the soul of the person, the potential, the bligvul potential that the soul has. Every person's soul, I'm just speaking about you. The bligvul potential that a soul has is is there by every single person. There's no chiluk. Then there's the Shema Toyar. Shema Toyar is describing the kelim a person has. The fact that his soul has kelim to draw out from the potential into actually being an intelligent person. A chacham, and the same applies to anything else, a chassid, and so on. Then you have a Shema Kinui. Shema Kinui describes something that the person is actually accustomed to doing, and therefore he gets a nickname. So that already refers to a developed dvar seichel, developed ideas that a person has once he's using that kayach ha-seichel. Not just the kelim, not just the ability, that the fact that he is an intelligent person. And then you have a Shema Meiser. Is that the lashon that's called here? Or Shema Pula. Shema Pula, when a person does one particular action and he gets a name for that action. Or he says one particular thought, and because of the one idea that the person has, an amazing idea, let's say, and the person gets a certain name for that idea that he says.
He published a book. He published a book.
Publish a book, or he set up as a statement. Person says up as a statement, and he gets known for that statement. So he gets a name for that one statement, which is very, very far. That name for that statement is very, very far from a name that would be describing the unlimited potential that his soul has. So we see how far these names are from each other. Let's continue inside. We're holding on page Chav Beis, where it says Val Pizem Mevayir. First word on the line is Aroich. Val Pizem Mevayir. Just past the middle of the page. Got it? Yeah, right over there. Val Pizem Mevayir. Pizem Mevayir, based on this, the Mittel Rebbe explains Mevayir Sham Hachilok Bizayin Hashem Yesheinen Chokim. The difference there is in the 7 names of the Eibusha that may not be erased. Shema Vaya, Shema Etzem. So here the Rebbe says there are 3 categories in the Eibusha's name. Shema Vaya is one of those names, but Shema Vaya also stands out. It's also different than the rest of the names. Shema Vaya is always referred to as a Shema Mefurish, Shema Meyuchot, Shema Etzem. It's a name, it is considered to be a name, but it's still a name that refers to the essence of the Eibusha. What does that mean? Shema Vaya is the pnimius of all the names. What's the proof for this? Therefore, we find in Torah that the name Avaya is written in a combination with other names. Keil, Lekim, Ad Hashem Tzvois, and it even is combined with the name Tzvois. In Torah, it always says Avaya Lekim, Avaya Tzvois, Keil Avaya Vayar Lanu. Basically, Avaya is there together with all the other names. But you'll never find the combination, I don't think so, of 2 of the other names, like Keil Lekim. Oh, you do have Keil Shindal Yud, yeah, okay. Or you have Adnai Elikim, correct. But you have more often L'chayre. I mean, the Rebbe is bringing here a raya over here. The fact that Havaya is mitzdaref with other shemus. What's the pshat when Havaya is mitzdaref with other shemus? Because Havaya is the pnimius of all the names, and the other name is the chitzenius of that name. What does it mean it's the pnimius of all the names? So the Rebbe says right now, L'hiyosei b'pchinas ha'or. Havaya is the only of the 7 names that refers to the Or, to the revelation, to the expression of Hashem before there's any Kalim, before there's any Inyan of Kalim. Of course, Legabe the Etzem, the very existence of Hashem Himself, there's no name. On that we say Anoichi. Lo Yisram is Lebishum Shem, Lebishum Kaitz. So Havaya, which is a name, is referring to a certain expression. But it's the expression of the Eibishter without any definition, without any Kalim. That's what Havaya is. There are, by the way, different interpretations to the name Avaya, different dargis that is brought in Chassidus regarding Avaya. There's Avaya de Elo, there's Avaya de Sata. The word Avaya has 2 pirushim generally. Havaya Meloshen Hoya Hoya Viviyah. Then there's Havaya Meloshen Mahava. Havaya Meloshen Mahava is a lower level where the Eibusha relates to creating Haya Hayviviyah refers to the fact that the Eibush is removed, that past, present, and future are all one. Right? This one is fresh, and those are not as fresh. I'm just pointing out, just for the Eilam. I mean, that's been there since Friday, and this was just.
Nobody could tell it. Nobody could tell it.
B'chatzaini is not, but once. Okay. Chadash b'tuva. Yeah. Okay, they're all fresh. Yaakov says they're all fresh. I think you can dispose of them. I believe. As a chaim, the gashmis from Yena Yid is dein ruchnis. Okay. Yeah. V'shar Hashemis, the rest of the 7 names, Heim b'pchinas hakelim. They are referring each to a particular level. Once the oyer comes into a keli, it becomes defined by that keli, whether it's chesed, whether it's gvura. That's all the names of the Eibush, all the other names. But then you have the lower level, Hine, Kol Hashem is Heim b'pchinas pnimiyas hakelim. All the other names of the Eibishter, they are connected to pnimiyas hakelim. What's the pshat pnimiyas hakelim? Shemes achtem im oyer. The pnimius of the keli becomes unified with the revelation of Hashem. I'll explain this in a moment. Let's read one second. Let's just read another line. Al derech shem atayar, similar to what we explained earlier in this paragraph, when you have a name which is a title that gives a person a title, that he's an intelligent person. So we explained earlier on, shem misachedim shem etzem, that his intelligence that he has, it gets unified with the potential of his soul. The potential of intelligence that's there in his soul comes out, and it flows directly into his ability, into the fact that he's an intelligent person. That's what all the other shemis are. So what's the pshat in this inyan? Pnimiyas hakelim shemisachtem ima'ir. When you talk about a keli, there are 2 different aspects of kelim. One aspect of a keli is a vessel to draw the revelation to the next level, to bring the revelation. When you have a revelation without a keli, what happens? So we learned, I think, even in this Maimah before. Revelation without a keli does not allow that revelation to actually reach anywhere, because the revelation is a direct revelation of the source, which is unlimited, and therefore it can't be received by anybody. Can't be received by another entity which is limited. The whole idea of a keli is to take what's unlimited and to draw that revelation a level further. So the objective of the keli, looking at it from this perspective, is not to conceal, is not to limit. On the contrary, the objective of the keli is to draw the revelation. Al derech it is simply with a keli. A person comes to a stream of water, and the water is flowing, and he wants to drink water. It's very hard to bend down when I have a big stream of water and drink directly from the water. So you put a keli there, and then you're able to access the water and drink it. What's the objective of the keli? To conceal the water, to get the water further from you. Adarabah, the idea of the keli is to make the water more accessible, to bring the gilu even further. That's pnimiyas hakelim. Pnimiyas hakelim is taking the gilui and bringing the gilui. It's not functioning fakert from the gilui, opposite of the gilui. Adarabah, the point is to bring the gilui. Al derech zeh, when you have over here, when you get all the shemis of the Eibishter. Ultimately, what's a name? On one hand, you see a name has 2 opposite points. On one hand, when you say a name, you're by definition not referring to the very essence, to the source itself. You're giving a particular name. A name is a particular description. So on one hand, the concept of a name is a limitation, defining it. At the same time, what's a name? A name is an identity, identifying this person. So a name, befedish, is referring to him and not to somebody else. You're describing this person. So when you talk about most of the names of the Eibishter, even those names, besides Havaya, that refer to the Kalim, it refers to the Eibishter and the way the Eibishter is expressed and is extended into these Kalim, the way the Eibishter functions through these Kalim. The Eibishter functions through Chesed and through Gvura and so on. Doesn't refer to the limitation aspect, is not the emphasis over here. Adarabah, the point is to bring the Oir into all of these places. That's Pnimiyas HaKelim. Okay, and it's like the Rebbe is saying, it's like the Shem HaToyar, what we learned yesterday. Shem HaToyar is when a person has an openness, when the Eibusha gives a person a gift, that the potential of his soul is open to the kalim of his brain to be able to take that flow of chokhmah from his soul to be actualized, to use it in his intelligence. Okay, so the idea is that the flow should come from the source out into the kalim. Good morning. Let's continue inside. Shem Tzvais, on the other hand, what is the name Tzvais? Hem B'chinas Chetzaynius HaKelim. Tzvais refers to the other aspect of what Kelim are. Chetzaynius HaKelim. Chetzaynius HaKelim, when you look at a Keli b'Chetzaynius, what do you see? A limitation. You see it defined and limited, that it has its ramifications, it has its place, it's defined, that's where it is, and not somewhere else. Chesed is dafke chesed, and befeidish not gvura, and they can't coexist, it's two opposites. Right, so the other aspect of Kalim is the exact opposite, to limit, to conceal, to cover. That's the Chetzaynius of Kalim. Al derech shema pula. So that's compared to a shame of a particular action that a person does. When you're giving a person a name, many times people get names for a particular action they did that becomes famous, or a particular statement they made that becomes famous, and many times it's very misleading. You really know nothing about the person himself, and sometimes the person says one statement, and he becomes known for that, and then about the person himself, well, does that necessarily indicate who the person himself is and what's really? No, befeidish nicht. So it sort of covers. It's a covering, and you don't get to see who the person himself is b'chlal. That's the idea of Shem HaPo'ula. Shezeu ma shenimshach b'medida v'agbola. So as this relates to the Eibishter, so this is the revelation of Hashem when it comes into a place of limitation. V'ad shenimshach ala zulas. To the point that the revelation is coming into a place where it recognizes an other existence outside of the Eibishter himself. Shuinyan Olam is Biyah. That's the existence of the worlds of Biyah, where you have a world of separation, a world that presents itself independent of Hashem. So there's a world of a difference here. The difference between the Shem at Etzem, Shem at Toyar, and Shem at Pu'ula, as we understand it from this whole Hasber, they're all names, but they're completely not the same. You have a name where the whole objective of the name, or the name it conceals. Then you have a name that's a description that gives you an understanding of who the person is. Then you have a name that's telling you about the very potential of the essence of his soul. These are very different, these names. Yeah? So now in this idea here, so now what's the significance of the name Tzvais? He pu'ulas haneviyim b'kriyas Shem Tzvais. The fact that the Nevi'im adopted this name Tzvais as opposed to the other names, it's not stam. So you look at it, b'pashtus, what's the reason why the Nevi'im adopted this name? Because the Nevi'im, the later Nevi'im especially, that lived in a time period where it was already further, there was more Helam V'Hesed in the world, they were living in a time period that was right before the Churban, and it was a Zman of Golus, so they were in a lower time period. So therefore the higher names of the Eibishter was not anymore so accessible. Their Nevuah came in a lower Darga. The Nevuah came in a Gili through Shem Tzvais because of the time period they were living in, because of the Helam V'Hesed. That's a simple pshat. But here, the Rebbe quotes from the pshat that we learned before, from the Alter Rebbe, that it's true, it's Taka Shem Tzvais is related to the lower time period and a lower name, but yet the objective of Nevi'im was the opposite. Shegam Shom, that even there and then, in that matzav that they were, in the later time, closer to Golos, Yum Shachliyas Ivachayay V'Garmayachad. The Shem Tzvais is that medium to draw the achdus of the Eibishter that exists in the world of Atzilus and introduce it and bring it into a place of separation. So true, the name Tzvais refers to a level of the Eibishter where there is a Helam V'Hesed, and where it gives space for a world to emerge and exist, that it gives space for a world to present itself as separate, but saf it's a name of the Eibishter. So when you say name Tzvais, you're drawing the Eibishter there, into that place. That was the objective of the Nevi'im. The objective is not that to make peace, sort of, with that matzav, that now we have a lower connection to Hashem. The earlier Nevi'im use higher names, and they use lower names because there's a lesser connection. Fakat, their objective was to bring the same achdus that there was in previous generations, to draw it into that space and time, to introduce the achdus of the Eibishter even there. Moshe came, Bimei Moshe, the Deirish of Moshe, the days of Moshe, the generation of Moshe, She'azah Yisrael b'matzav kazeh. Then Yidden are found in such a condition. Shalei hoyelem shaychas l'medida v'akbala d'olam isbiyah. The Yidden left Mitzrayim, they experienced the great revelations, Matan Torah, 40 years surrounded by Danani Yaakov. The Yidden were secluded from the existence of the world. They were living in the world of Atzilus. Shehem b'chinas zulas. They weren't related to a world which is zulas, where there is a recognition of something outside of Hashem. V'loi b'chinas chad, and not one with Hashem. The Yidden were not, had no shaykhs to this kind of limitation. So based on what we understand over here, the great distance that there is between the name Tzvois and all the other names of Hashem, so we could understand even more the big question in the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimer, then, when they leave Mitzrayim, at the greatest point of revelation of history, one of the greatest, Dafke then, the Yidden are referred to with the term Tzivus Havaya, which is related with the name Tzvois. That's a description of a Helen V'Hester, where the Eibusher comes in a place where there's a Pirud and Helen V'Hester. It's not the appropriate name for that time period. That's the question of the Friedrich Rebbe.
So Shem Havaya is Shem Etzem, and Zayin Hashem is
all the other Zayin, which would be the other 5 names. Would be B'negei Kalim, and then the 7th name, Tzvois, refers to Chetzenius HaKalim, to bring the Eibishter's Achtos into a place of Pirut, even into a place of Biyah.
I think that Yosef Paltiel brings that from the davening. Those are the Shemos. You go actually in it starts from Ekia, which is Keser, and whatever UK is Nachman and so forth. So he says that actually Shem Havaya is the Or, but also Shem Havaya is also the Keli of Tiferes.
It says B'negei to the Keli of Tiferes that it's a different type of Keli. It's Taka Keli, but it's a different type of Keli, and therefore Shem Havaya refers to there. Yeah, correct. Yeah.
They have the actual Or, and each one is Havaya, but it's with different Nekudos.
Right.
So the first one is with Kamatz, which is Keser, and so for Patach.
Okay. Great. Okay. The Kavanah of the
Shemus. All the other Shemus, Chacham, and all that. That's Chitzonius. The Chitzonius. What is that?
They're not. Those Shemus are not Zayin Shemus Shenin and Chakim, because those are Shemus that are used for Chayil all the time. You could describe the Eibishter as a Chacham. You could describe a human being as a Chacham. So those are Shemus that are not. No, it's not. They're not from the Shemus Shenin and Chakim. Not from, by the Eibush it says Antu Chakim v'lo b'chacham yediyah. So when you use the term Chacham, which is a term that we use for another human being, that you define him as a Chacham, it doesn't have that kedusha, because Antu Chakim v'lo b'chacham yediyah. It's not in this category b'chlal. None of these levels b'chlal. Yeah, let's go weiter. So continuing on in the Eis Yud of the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimer, so to answer the significance of the Shem Tzvois that's used at this point regarding Yidden related to the Regilia of the Eibishter, named Tzvois. So the Friedrich Rebbe gives additional interpretations to what the word Sava and Tzvois would mean. So the Friedrich Rebbe explains, Shashem Tzvois, so Tzivas Havaya, Humaloshin Sava. Means Tzava, the word Tzava. I mean, the taich of the word Tzivas Havaya in English is Bepashtus, legions of Hashem. But the Friedrich Rebbe taiches that, of course, the source of the word is Tzava, that's the root of the word. Sheyesh by Gimel Pirushim. There are 3 interpretations to the word Tzava. Loshen Chayil, an army. This pshat of an army comes, the hezbollah to that starts in Ois Yud Aleph of Basi legani, where the Friedrich Rebbe talks about Midas Anitzachon, and the attitude of people in an army have to have. That's not in this year's Maimer, but it's Ois Yud Aleph. Bei is Loshen Zman Mugbal. The second shot of the word Sava means in a set time, a limited time. As we could see at the Pasuk, Halei Tzava le'ena shalei aretz. A person has a set amount of days in his life in this world, and every person has to fulfill his mission in this world in those set amount of days. The third shot, Moloshen Tzivyain v'yoifi. Tzivyain means a form, and when you combine all the different forms that exist in creation, and all the different forms that exist within human beings even, you have a beauty. You have a combination of all these forms that creates a beauty. And the Friedrich Rebbe the Maimer begins explaining the last pshat, HaPirish, the Tzava, Moloshen Tzivyain v'yoifi, Kifishu b'neshamas Yisrael. This idea that you have a form and the beauty of all these varied forms as it's reflected amongst Yidden. The Kshem shetachlas hayofi hu. Just as when do you have real beauty? When you combine many colors, if you have one color, of course, there's really no beauty there. If you have a combination of two colors, there's beauty. The more colors you combine, and the more shades of colors, and the mixture of the colors, and so on, the more beauty you have. One color, you don't see any beauty in that color at all. When you combine not only more than one color, but many colors together, that brings about the beauty. When a color is not standing alone, when it's included and it's together in a painting with other colors. So just to look at this very simply, the chiddush over here is, usually in life a person thinks that when he's alone and when he's able to be expressed and without anybody interfering with him, so then he feels like he's at his fullest. When there's another person in the room, when there's others, when you combine many together, so that just detracts from my existence. That takes away from my beauty or from my ability to express. What this mashal is telling you is, when you're alone, there's no beauty. Allein is ashtein, the expression in Yiddish. So when you have others together, when there's a combination of many together, it's not a reason for a person to feel like that there's somebody else that's stepping over him and taking away from you. Adarabba. It's a combination of energies, and the symmetry of all those energies brings about a greater beauty. Not fakert. That's the simple pshat. What's the word? I used the wrong word.
No. It's symmetry as well, but it's synergy. Synergy is when one adds.
It's stronger than energy.
Yeah, you become.
It's two different words. Have nothing to do with each other.
No, synergy is when two things are combined and they have more power than the combination of both.
Yeah.
If you take 1 plus 3, it becomes actually 5 because they add to each other. They
Sounds
add
like a
more
Jewish
power.
account.
Correct. And riboy, when you have riboy, it's even greater. Pastor Maimon. Okay.
Ish Medini.
Ish Medini, a person is naturally, it's social. Let's continue right inside. Kain hu gambi Yisrael. So this is true regarding Yidden. Shem chalukim b'madrigosam. Amongst Yidden, you have many different levels. Balei asoge. There are those that have the ability to comprehend words of Torah. Shem mori Torah. People that have a comprehension in words of Torah. Umari rozn v'saydin yilon. People that have an ability to understand secrets of Torah. Mari de chochmasa. People that have a talent to understand chochmah. Chochmah is different than hasaga, of course. Hasaga is to comprehend details, and chochmah is when a person could understand, could be creative. Chochmah is the idea to create a new idea, to innovate. People that are more innovative by nature. And then you have people that are not, do not have, their strong point is not b'chlal in understanding Torah. They're simple people. Shemrak maran uvdin tavim, individuals that do good deeds, can do mitzvahs, shemekayim mesa Torah mitzvahs, bitmimis, fulfill Torah mitzvahs sincerely. V'zeh hu tzivyainam. And this is the form of all Yidden. This is the combination of the form of many different Yidden. Shu tachlis hayefi. This is the absolute beauty. Mashakol meribig vanim. When you combine these many colors. Now the Friedrich Rebbe adds to this. So what happens here? Let's think about this. Going back to the point that I mentioned before, when a person is alone, he can be fully expressed. Then when there's another person there, and there's yet another person, so then there is a beauty. There is a beauty when you have more, but it does take away from the individual. The fact is, it takes away from the individual, and that gets replaced by the beauty of the many, of the combination of the many energies. But doesn't the individual lose out from this? So the Rebbe here points out a very good point. If you look closely at this mashal, you'll see that this mashal is making 2 points. Number one, that you now have the addition of the beauty of the many, but at the same time, not only does it not take away from the individual, it'll also help express the richness of the individual. The beauty here is not just the fact that you have the combination of all these colors, so you have this beautiful painting, you have this general picture here. When you have the combination of colors, it also helps express the richness of each individual color. The beauty from the combination of the many colors together, this also affects and helps express the individual richness that there is in this particular color. When you see, when someone puts a color for you on a canvas, and you just see that color, you don't necessarily see anything beautiful about that color. You put it in a painting, and you see that color, and you see the contrast and how it relates and how it contributes to the rest of the painting. All of a sudden, you see how beautiful this color is. What this color could contribute to the painting. So you don't only see the general picture and the combination of colors that creates the beauty. It helps also express the richness of this color itself. So it's the same thing also in the combination of people, the combination of the Avedis of all the Yidden. It's not just the general picture that's expressed here, but it also helps express the individual power and beauty of your neshama. That's the mashal over here. Huh?
It's like a puzzle.
Like
a puzzle.
A puzzle, yeah. Correct. It's a similar idea, yeah. Okay, we're going to stop over here. We're in the middle of an Indian, but we'll continue tomorrow, huh?